Hello everyone, a very good afternoon and welcome back to the session of the daily news analysis of 28th of September 2021. So as due to certain kind of issues I had to take the session today at 3:30 p.m. But yeah, going forward as we have been doing for the very past, like we'll be doing the same thing from tomorrow also, where our session will be held in the morning at around 11:30 a.m. is something that we'll be continuing to. Okay, so that is something that I just would like to stress to you before we start discussing today's topics of the day. And yes, so we also have a very good offer that I also would like to let you know before we start. And it also gives us a great pleasure. In fact, with immense pleasure, we would like to announce that Unacademy has been a place where more than 160 plus learners have actually secured the ranks in the UPSC CSE 2020. So this shows very clearly that the kind of support that Unacademy has given. You can see including the rank 2, like we have top 7 learners are there in the top 20, and then we have 20 learners in top 21, 200 and 142 learners are already there in the top rankers. So this is the list that you would be seeing them in the top 50. That shows really a very interesting thing. And yes, here comes the offer that I'm supposed to tell you and discuss with you is this, right? Generally, whenever you use a code called the Ajay IAS 10, you will be getting a discount of 10% by default at any point of time on Unacademy, right? Apart from that, what you're going to have right now for the next few days, that is for 28th to 30th, that is starting from today. So 28, 29 and 30, in 3 days you will have additional 10% of discount would be there. So a total of 20% of discount is something you are going to get for the next 3 days on using my code, which is highlighted here, right? So that is something which I just would like to let you know. And we have various batch courses that have been created for the various batches for 22, 23 as well as for 2021 also. We have 1 year batch courses, we have English batch courses, we have Hindi as well as the bilingual batch courses. These are something which have been planned very curatively by the topmost educators on Unacademy, and I'll be also a part of those batch courses where I'll be taking up the various courses related to science and technology, disaster management, internal security and such kind of things too. Okay, right, on starting from 2nd of October, we'll be having a weekend current affairs simplified batch would be started. That is another important announcement too. And this month, this week on, on 3rd of October, combat is changing. And yes, you heard it right. Combat is changing in one way that on this particular 3rd of October, you would have exclusively geography related combat, which means whatever you write, whatever the things that comes up on, on 3rd of October, the questions, 50 questions would be there, all are of geography. That's going to be a geography special combat you'll be having on 3rd of October, right? So we also know about these particular features and all. Yes, let's not get into this too much of things. Now let's start with the topics of the day. So coming on with the topics first. The first topic we have is about Airspace Map of India. I hope everyone can see as well as hear me well, right? Now, when it comes to this particular case, the airspace wala thing, the most important thing that we need to remember is that in the recent past, government did make a lot of modifications by simplifying the norms for the operations of the drones, where we've allowed the civilian drones to fly to different kind of regions. But on one side, when you are making the things normal, when you are making the things fine, there would be certain kind of areas where you cannot operate the drones to, right? So people must know where to fly a zone or a drone or where not to fly a drone. So that is the reason why the government has clearly come across with, they've demarcated the no-fly zones very specifically, where they need to put or undergo certain kind of formalities, before they are flying a drone, or where they are not supposed to fly the drone, they need to know. So that's the reason a drone map has been created, or an airspace map has been created by that has been developed by Map My India, an IT services firm called as Happiest Minds. So that has been brought up on and kept on the the Directorate General of Civil Aviation's platform called as Digital Sky Platform. If you can see, this shows very clearly about what are the boundaries and within where you can actually where you are allowed to fly the drones. This clearly shows you a kind of out sketch here, right? I hope you all can see it very well. Now, This air map or this particular airspace map has 3 zones very specifically highlighted, which they call it as green, red and yellow. A green zone is something which is generally something where people are allowed, something where people are allowed, this particular zones, when you talk about, people are allowed to fly the drones, which is entertained and which is allowed under the green zone. But a green zone, if you go by the limits for that, it will have an airspace up to 400 feet, that has not been designated as red or yellow. Any zone is considered as a green zone if it has not been designated as a red or yellow, and it's up to the height of 400 feet and up to 200 feet above the area located between 8 to 12 kilometers from the perimeter of an operational airport. For example, if there is if there is an airport here, so they say very clearly around the airport of up to 8 to 12 kilometers distance from the airport, if you are here, you are supposed to fly the drone only at 200 feet, okay, not at the height of 400 feet like you were allowed earlier. Okay, that's what they have brought up under the green zone. Then you have got is what is it called yellow zone, that is about airspace above 400 feet again, which is basically considered of designated green zone and about 200 feet in the area located. This is something which is similar, but what they say very specifically is this: the range is very similar like the green zone, but when you talk about an yellow zone, the most important difference here is that here for airport it was 8 to 12 kilometers, right? When it comes to green zone, for yellow zone that would be 5 to 8 kilometers only. Okay, so very specifically when they are in the area located between, if this is an airport and if this is in the area of 5 to 8 kilometers of distance from the airport, so for them it is something like they will have only 200 feet. And there is a red zone which clearly says no drones are allowed, and if you are allowing some drones, that can be done only after the permission from the center. Understood? This is very specifically the air map. If you can look into this, a particular screenshot which shows you very well that the outside one is a green zone. It is a green zone, it is an yellow zone, and the internal one is a red zone. So if let's say that this is an airport located region, so up to 5 to 8 kilometers, this is yellow zone, and this is basically a green zone that they would be taking into consideration. Understood, right? So this is how it is taken up to. So what are the rules now? Oh, in the case of green zones, there is no need of taking any permission. Okay, no permission is required for operating the drones with a weight up to 500 kg. Okay, but if you are operating the drones in yellow zone, you have to take the permission from the concerned air traffic control authorities. It could be the Airports Authority of India, it could be the Air Force, it could be Navy, it could be Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, whoever it is there, you have to take those into consideration. Okay, if you could see, this is how you could say with respect to Delhi. You have a lot of red zones, you can see it very well, right? So it's about the secure areas you will be talking about. Now, how can someone check this particular things? The map is already available on Digital Sky platform of the DGCS website too. So anyone whoever is planning to operate a drone, they must check the latest airspace which will be changing in the zone boundaries could be there. That needs to be taken into consideration and implemented. Okay, so this is something which has been mentioned by the Airspace Map of India about the drones, red, green and yellow zones. That's about it. Clear? So we'll move on to the next one. The next topic is about right to government aid is not fundamental right. Let's say that the government of India or government of a state is providing some kind of a support or some kind of aid to an institution which is being run by any community, be it a majority or be it a minority. Okay, so be it a majority or be it a minority, they have got some kind of a this particular support from the side of a government. Now whenever they have got some support or aid from the government, it is mandatory that they have to follow it. The norms have to be followed. But by chance, if the government stops giving the funding, the institution cannot say that it is my right, the government must give me the funding. No. The Supreme Court makes it very clear. If the government has made it very, very clear that if they have decided as a policy to withdraw the aid, then an institution cannot question this, stating that it's my fundamental right. It's up to the institution. If they want to accept the grant, they can, or they can go as their own way. But you cannot do whatever you do, like, whatever has been done. If the government has withdrawn it, you cannot question them stating that it's my fundamental right. So the judgment has come in an appeal which was taken up against a decision made by Allahabad High Court, which has declared unconstitutional provision of Intermediate Education Act. So whatever the institution, be it run by a majority or minority, all conditions that are proper utilization of the grant in aid by education institution can be imposed. And the Article 30 clause 2 says that on the ground that an institution is under the management of minority based on religious minority or based on linguistic minority, the grant of aid to that institution cannot be discriminated against it. If other educations are entitled to receive aid, even they are allowed to. But they stated very clearly, if the government has taken a decision as a matter of fact, as a matter of their own policy change, you cannot challenge them. This is something which they have made it very, very clear. Clear, understood, right? It's that, if the government has decided to stop providing the fund to the minority education institution, they cannot say it's my fundamental right, government has to provide. No, it is not possible. Okay, next. So with respect to employment survey, some report has come which states that from 2013 to till now, there has been increase in the number of jobs by 29%. This is a release which could be a bit ridiculed, there is a great possibility that this could be ridiculed by the opposition parties for sure. So the All India Quarterly Establishment Based Employment Survey has stated that the overall employment numbers have increased by 29% from 2013-14. There has been increase of employment by 29%. So in the first quarter, that is from April to June 2021, 27% of the establishments surveyed have reported pandemic related retrenchment. That is, which means 27% of the companies which have been set up due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they have removed their particular employees too. So this report was released by the employment minister, has covered 10,593 companies which employed more than 10 workers, and they were spread over 9 sectors which account for around 85% of employment in the country. And overall employment is at 3.08 crore in the first quarter from 2.37 crore in the earlier economic census. Every sector has seen an increase in the employment except trade and accommodation and the restaurants. Except trade and accommodation and restaurants, all others have seen some kind of increase. They say the most impressive growth has been in the IT or BPO sector. There has been increase in 152%. Then it's health sector 77%, transport 68%, financial services 48%, construction 42%, education 39%, and manufacturing 22%. So in the manufacturing, again the manufacturing sector is the one which accounts for 41% of the establishments, and then we have seen is about what has been found is education is 22% and health is at 8%. So these are the ones they have actually seen some kind of thing too. There is definitely a decline in the employment in trade and other kind of in trade and accommodation and restaurants too. But the COVID-19 pandemic is something that is to be blamed for this particular thing. But this kind of data would definitely help the employees, even the government also, so that they could understand about how that is going on. They can provide employees provident fund, as well as they could say employee state insurance also. So the Labor Bureau with an expert group have done these kind of surveys, and they stated that a national employment policy would also be out very soon. This is something which they have talked about, and I'll give you 1 minute so that you can actually have a look at this particular screenshot for a minute, please. Yeah. So moving on to the next one. So now, if you remember, in the last class, we did talk about the need of caste census and all. You remember? The caste census is a topic that they have taken, and the government stated to the Supreme Court in an affidavit that the caste census data which has been done, the socio-economic caste census, is with a lot of errors. Right? Is it with a lot of errors? Now, this news has become very important, because now opposition parties are claiming that this affidavit which has been submitted by the government is false. Now, what is the reason? Why are they saying it that way? The major reason is this. As I told you, that the Supreme Court has been told by the government that the caste data that is there in socio-economic caste census of 2011 was unusable. But the Registrar General and Census Commission of India has informed the Standing Committee on Rural Development of Parliament. The Registrar General of India stated that 98.87% of the data on individual caste and religion was error-free. Now, this would definitely be a kind of a problematic thing for the government, because now, yes, they may submit this as a kind of evidence and criticize the government. So, in a report which actually talked about analyzing what action has been taken by the government on the recommendations made by the committee, the BPL survey, currently Socio-Economic Caste Census 2011, the Registrar General and Census Commission of India and the Ministry of Home Affairs has stated data has been examined and 98.87% of the data on individuals' caste and religion is error-free. They made it very clear it is error-free. And now the Office of Registrar General of India said that errors have been noticed in the data of around 1.34 crore individuals out of the total surveyed, 118 crores. Of 118 crores people who have been surveyed, there has been issues with 1.3 crore individuals today. Now, what is the reason now why the government must have made it very clear to this, especially in the Supreme Court? Now, this could be a bit problematic thing. The government stated that the total number of castes in 1937 was 4,147. But the socio-economic caste census says there are more than 46 lakh different castes. So some castes may bifurcate into subcastes. The total number cannot be high to this kind of extent, says the government in the affidavit. So the entire exercise was corrupted according to the government. They say that the enumerators have used different spellings for the same castes. And in many cases the respondents, have refused to give their caste also. Now, this MPs who have been a part of this particular committee stated that the error is not in the data but in the judgment of the government. These particular people have been criticizing the government. For example, the former INB minister stated that if 98% of the data was error-free, as it was mentioned by the Registrar General of India, there is no reason why the government has to hide it. Because how did you conduct the socio-economic caste census? Based on the money spent by the people. It's a taxpayer's money. So they say that very clearly this is something which needs to be taken care. Because right now there are many parties have been asking the government that you need to conduct the caste census, especially of the OBCs and all. So now this could be a bit problematic thing for the people who have been demanding, to the government for now, because people have been demanding it. So we just have to wait and see what will be the progress of it in the near future. At least in the next few more days, we'll get some kind of understanding about it. Now, I hope we had a basic discussion about the digital health ID yesterday. If I'm not wrong, we had some basic discussion about digital health ID. So, what is this basic or digital health ID? And the official name that has been given to it now is Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. This is the official name that has been given, called Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. What exactly is it? So this program was launched earlier on a pilot basis in 6 union territories. It has been launched by the Prime Minister for the entire country yesterday. So what exactly is the objective? For example, let's say I am a person who is having some particular disease. I've gone to a hospital. The doctor stated you need to get this particular checking done. So the scan reports, ECG and all. So once this is done, it will be stored. So as part of Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, they will create a unique health ID to every citizen. Number one will be a unique health ID will be there to the citizen. And number 2, it's not just focusing on health ID alone, but they will also create a digital registry. They'll create a registry of the health professionals and the facilities available also. So what happens now? This would completely transform the things, because the health facilities, people will know what sort of facilities are present at what. So the people in accessing the treatment could be sorted out much easier. And now, for example, if I want a particular lab, to be done a particular test, I can search that. So the health record of every citizen will be digitally protected, and Ayushman Bharat digital mission will now connect digital health solutions of hospitals across the country with each other. So which means, for example, as I told you about one patient who has come from a rural area, if they have, if they have gone to a city for some kind of work and suddenly they fell down on a road, they were admitted in the hospital. And once they were admitted in the hospital, the person is from rural area, he don't know what problem he has, but he was using some medicines too. He don't know them, he don't know them. But the doctor right now feels it's a kind of complication that they are going through. So what happens now? There is no one to support him. So in this kind of cases, if we can get the digital health ID of the person, now we will know what sort of medicines he is using, what sort of reports that he has, what sort of diagnosis he has earlier. So this would improve the ease of living of the people, isn't it? So technologies will now be gone to everywhere. So with the healthcare technology, this could be a game changer for the health sector too. And the doctors and hospitals will be able to use this as a platform to provide remote health service also. For example, if I'm talking to a doctor on a video call, I can just give them my health ID and they'll be able to tell me what is to be done, what is to be done. So through the digital health ID, the patient himself and the doctor can also check old records if that is needed. And not just that, there will be registration of other doctors, nurses and paramedics too. The hospitals, clinics, labs, medicine shops, all will be registered in the country. So this will bring every stakeholder in the health sector on a single platform. So it is going to help you in having a better treatment records and also a faster and effective treatment. Now, whenever a person is moving to a new hospital or a new city, generally we can't repeat everything, because if I'm going to another city, I have some health issues, I stayed in one city, and when I've gone to another city, the doctor who treated me till now in the city knew everything. But when I go there, that doctors may not know about it. So what happens now? I have to start the entire procedure from the beginning once again, isn't it? This could be a bit problematic. In the absence of this kind of records, they have to carry the files, of last many years of treatment. And in the case of an emergency, this is not possible. So due to this, a lot of time of both the patient and doctor is getting wasted. And the problem is also more, and the cost of treatment also increases, because they have to do the diagnosis things and all once again. So there is no need of doing all these things once again if you have a digital health ID that would benefit the poor and middle class, especially in finding a right doctor and a hospital too. Because doctors generally don't advertise much, in the newspapers and all. Only after sometimes, only when someone visits a doctor, now generally how that happens here, to become a doctor has to be considered as a famous doctor. Once a person comes to a hospital and get the treatment done, if they say that the doctor is treating well, so often what happens now, other people would also go there. So in that way, we would be able to improve the situation. Then the biggest benefit of this mission will be the poor and middle class are the ones who are going to be getting the most important benefit here. That would completely transform all these things, and they will also know about doctors, labs, drugstores. Everything could be identified very, very, very easily. And this is what we call it as Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. Isn't that interesting? Definitely one of the very, very, very important initiatives. I would say, I have no hesitation in saying that, definitely one of the greatest initiatives that has been started by the current government, without hesitation we could say, because this could help the poor people, the illiterate people and the people from rural areas especially, because whenever, by chance no one knew what complication to be happening to any person anytime. So this could become definitely a great alternative for them that would help them a lot in getting the proper treatment in a much, much, much better way. Okay, now we'll move to the next one. Government notifies COVID compensation. We all knew that some time ago the Union Home Ministry has stated that they are going to provide an ex gratia of 50,000 rupees to the next of the kin who died of COVID-19. and more than 4,50,000 or 4.4 lakh people have died of COVID-19 since the COVID-19 pandemic has started. So in a letter to the states, the Home Ministry stated the amount will be given from the SDRF, because SDRF is the fund, the State Disaster Response Fund, is the one that is present with respect to the state governments, and now that would be provided from this particular SDRF so that we could provide some immediate relief to the victims. And now, why will states give it now when you talk about this kind of scenario? So whenever you talk about these kind of things, the government, the union government gives 75% contribution of SDRF. If you're talking about the general category state, 75% of money is given by the center, and for the general category states and UTs, and for 90% will be given for the special category states like northeastern states, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Himachal and Jammu and Kashmir, or we could say the UTs of Jammu and Kashmir, because COVID-19 was also notified as a disaster in 2020 itself. So this ex gratia will be given to the people who have died, including in the relief operations, or those who have committed the suicide despite after knowing that they have been considered as a contract with the COVID-19 too. Okay, the assistance would be applicable from the date of first case in the country and continue till the denotification of COVID-19 as a disaster or till further orders. So this is something which we have. So these are the topics we have in the articles published in the Hindu. And then we have is the next area we have is about the next two topics that we'll be taking up is related to the articles of Indian Express. We all hear about what is it called genetically modified crops or genetically modified seeds. So what are these genetically modified things? You try to make the gene modification using certain kind of enzymes and all, you'll be doing it. So whenever you mention about the genetically modified crops, you use, for example, right now in India, only one crop is allowed that is also genetically modified, which we call it as a BT cotton, right? So this is something it is taken. BT is something, it's nothing but Bacillus thuringiensis is a soil bacteria. So this is a basically from that particular from that particular bacteria, you try to take the protein and inject into the seed of a cotton and you will get the thing done, right? But it is not something that is available with other areas too. So this genetically modified crops have been one certain kind of problematic thing because many people have been opposing them too. But some time ago, very recently, that is today, in fact, about 2 different varieties of rice will be officially released by the Prime Minister, but these are non-genetically modified rice varieties. These are also first herbicide tolerant rice varieties. So the Indian Agriculture Research Institute has developed the first ever non-genetically modified herbicide tolerant rice varieties, which now you don't have to do a lot of things. You can just take these particular rice seeds and seed them, and you don't have to pour lot of water and follow the general procedures that we use, like having a huge labor and sapling the seeds of the rice. You don't have to follow those many general forms too. So the varieties are called Pusa Basmati 1979, Pusa Basmati 1985. So what is the most important thing? Why is it really interesting? Generally, these 2 varieties of rice consist of a mutated acetolactate synthase. So it's basically a gene called mutated acetolactate synthase. So what happens here is that this particular things, now this makes that farmers would be allowed to spray what is it called as Imagestuffer. So this is a kind of herbicide that is generally used to control the weeds. Now what happens here is generally what happens is whenever you have some nurseries and all where the paddy seeds are grown, first the paddy seeds, if you are talking about the paddy cultivation, we don't directly sow the seeds and all. First we try to raise this particular seedlings into some young plants, isn't it? Whenever you talk about the paddy cultivation, and once that is done, what you do before being uprooted, so what happens now, the seeds would be developed a bit into some small young plants. Once they are taken, they are planted in the farm. This is something which is generally done, isn't it? So when you do this kind of transplantation, it requires both labor and water. Why? Because when I'm doing the sampling, when you are doing this particular saplings thing, the field where you are putting this particular seedlings, are transplanted, that has to be puddled or tilled in standing water. This young plants which we have got, the farm which we are taking, so these things have to be made standard, made stood in some standing water. And for the first 3 weeks till about for the next 4 to 5 weeks, we have to regularly irrigate it. We have to maintain a water depth of 4 to 5 centimeters of water depth is something that we need to maintain. Now, when you have these kind of things, farmers continue to give water every 2 to 3 days, even for the next 4 to 5 weeks, when the crop is in the development of a stem stage. So this is the place that they call it as tillering. Generally, water is a natural herbicide. When water is present, so when this particular natural herbicide is there, so this will take care of the weeds in the paddy's crop early growth period. So at that time, so here you don't have to be bothered much, because in general crop the water is acting as a herbicide. But now the new varieties which have been brought up, called Pusa 1979 and Pusa 1985, this will replace the water with what is it called Imagestuffer. And you don't need to do all the procedures you have done, like nurturing the seeds to have young plants. You have to do the puddling thing, transplanting, flooding. All these things are not needed anymore. Then what you can do is you can directly take, you can directly sow the paddy directly, just like you do that for the wheat. You don't have to wait for these kind of things. So here you are going to use what is it called Imagestuffer, which is going to deal with this particular weeds. So Imagestuffer is something which is against a range of broadleaf, grassy and sedge weeds. This cannot be used in normal paddy, because here the chemical does not distinguish between the crop and invasive plants. So generally many people want to use this Imagestuffer, but they cannot do it because it cannot distinguish between crop and invasive plants. And if someone is directly using the Imagestuffer, that will have an impact on the plant. But this gene which we have in the rice, which we called it as ALS, that is, acetolactate synthase, acetolactate synthase. So this gene in rice codes for enzyme which will synthesize with amino acids, and the herbicide that is sprayed on the normal plants will bind to this particular enzymes, and that will release the production of amino acids. So the new basmati varieties which have got consist of an ALS gene whose DNA sequence has been altered using what is it called ethyl methane sulfonate, a chemical mutant. So in simple terms, what is it going to happen is that the enzymes whatever are here no longer have to go for the binding of the Imagestuffer and amino acid synthesis, because the plants can now tolerate the herbicides directly. They don't have to bother much about it. So this is the most important thing that has been brought up. There is nothing much that you need to be bothered about in this particular case. Ultimately, what you can do is save a lot of water, and you can deal with the herbicides in a much better way. There are many farmers in Punjab and Haryana who are already adapting this direct seeding of rice. Like how you use with respect to the wheat, you can directly seed the rice too. Alone this year, around 6 lakh of the total 44.3 lakh hectares, area that is there in these two states of Punjab and Haryana, 6 lakh hectares has already come under direct seeding of rice. So it's based on 2 herbicides that they will be taking up to. But this particular thing, what is being followed right now, is completely going to save huge amount of water. That's about 30% less water is something that could be taken up. That means you can save around 3,000 rupees per acre in the transplantation, and in 10 to 15 days time you can do it without any kind of nursery. So this is something which they have brought up, the 2 different kind of varieties that were supposed to be launched by the Prime Minister today. We just have to yet to get this particular kind of update, I would say. Okay, so that is about this particular topic. And last one we will be having is about the astronomy related topic. I'm sure you all must have heard about a topic or a word called as dark energy, and there is what we call it as dark matter. So what is the difference between dark energy and dark matter is something we'll see. And what is there in the news? We'll do a brief understanding only. We'll not get into too much of this particular details. Okay. Now what is it happening is this. The dark energy is considered as one of the most mysterious form of energy. Because right now, around 68% of our universe is made up of dark energy. But what happened? This dark energy, you can understand, 68% of universe is made up of dark energy. So many physicists and astronomers have been thinking of this dark energy, and it has been noted as the most profound mystery in the entire science. And many advanced technologies have come, many experiments have come. Right now, the scientists have found some clues about it. And in the last week, an international team of researchers have made the first putative direct detection of the dark energy. So what they have seen is they have noticed some unexpected results in an underground experiment which has been conducted. Some underground experiment has been conducted, and now they say that the dark energy may be responsible for some kind of unexpected results which they have actually seen there too. They say the results that they have found is some kind of unexpected. So they say the dark energy is the one which is the reason for that. And this experiment which they were doing is called as Xenon 1T. So it is the world's most sensitive dark matter experiment, and it's operated deep underground at a place in Italy. So this particular Xenon 1T was designed to detect the dark matter, but they also say that it can also detect the dark energy. But what is the difference between dark energy and dark matter? For example, we talk about the planets, moons, galaxies, everything that we see in the world. We all together will make of just 5% of the universe only. You can understand now. Only 5% of universe is us. So 27% is dark matter and 68% is dark energy. What is the difference here is the dark matter is the one which will attract and hold the galaxies together, whereas dark energy will repel and expansion of universe is done. Okay, so they talk about this kind of thing. So they say there is a presence of dark matter, but both the dark matter and dark energy both are invisible too. So many experts are stating that this large experiments like Xenon 1T which has been done, it has been designed to directly detect the dark matter, but right now they have found some evidence of the dark energy. So they say there are some kind of reason because of some unexpected signal. We have heard some background noise, and there has been a movement of these particular things. They were a bit surprised too, but still they have not yet got some kind of understanding about it. We just have to wait and see about what is the final output that they have got. Okay, so that is all we have for the day. There is nothing much that is taken up today. So we'll be meeting you all tomorrow again at the same time. Tomorrow it will be at 11:30. Okay, so the next session would be tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. And also guys, I'm repeating it once again, you have an offer for till 28th to 30th of this particular month. If you are using the code of Ajay IAS 10, if you're using this particular code for taking the Unacademy subscription, you will be getting 20% of discount. That is 10 plus 10. Generally 10 is something you will get from the referral code, and additionally 10% you will be getting for this particular week till 30th of this particular September. That is all we have for the day. Take care everyone. Thank you and have a great day. Jai Hind and bye.